Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. Happy Halloween, everyone. Today, we're doing another Women of Horror Spotlight. I have with us today author Faye Knightly, and she has a book out right now. It's on Amazon. Yes, and it's called Twisted Tales of Halloween Horror. Right now on Amazon, I believe the ebook is free today.
That's right. Happy Halloween, everyone. The book is free today. We are participating in the Terrify Your Tablet event. A number of horror authors are offering their books for free today, and we are one of those groups. So you can absolutely get this puppy free as an ebook, not a paperback. It would be ridiculously expensive, but ebook, yes.
Yes. But you can also get the paperback if you would like as well.
We have a hardcover as well. So,
hardcover,
so if you're really keen, there's a hardcover edition.
So Faye, tell us a little bit about Twisted Tales of Halloween Horror.
Yeah, so we are an anthology group, and we kind of focus on twisting up holidays. We have done a Scary Christmas as our first anthology, and that was Twisted Tales of Holiday Horror. This time around, we did Halloween, so we're Twisted Tales of Halloween Horror, and we have different Halloween legends and familiar characters like the Boogeyman and Bloody Mary are in here.
Nice.
And so our authors have taken those legends and folklore and just made these twisted tales about them.
Now, how many authors have compiled stories?
Our anthology is 11. We are 11 strong, yeah.
Nice.
And it's produced by the Sisterhood of the Black Pen, of which I'm a co-founder. So my partner and I produced this anthology, and we did an open submissions process for other indie horror authors to contribute stories.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, would you like to read us a little bit of?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
I have my story marked. My story is called Jack, and it's a twisted tale of Jack of the Jack-o'-lantern. Mm-hmm. It's this old Halloween legend of where the term jack-o'-lantern came from. It's actually Irish, where this man tried to trick the devil. And so he called the devil forth, and he told him, "Buy me a drink and I'll give you my soul." And so the devil's like, "Okay, good deal, fine." And Jack said, "You just have to pay for the drink and then you can have my soul. So you have to turn yourself into a coin so I can pay for my drink, and then I'll give you my soul." So the devil transforms himself into a coin, and Jack takes the coin and presses across to it. He traps the devil inside the coin, and he makes the devil promise never to take his soul. So he makes this bargain with the devil, never to take his soul. When he dies, he can't go to hell because the devil has made this bargain with him, and he's not wanted in heaven because he's a terrible person. So he has to wander the earth, and he's given a hollowed out turnip with an ember from hell inside it to light his way. And that's the first jack-o'-lantern. So that's where that term comes from. And sorry, go ahead.
I never knew that. I never knew that.
Right? It definitely it was a really cool legend to learn about, and it really sparked something in me to write about it. So my story is like a what if kind of story about Jack, and he's called Stingy Jack because of the money component of that tale. Mm-hmm. But in my tale, he continues to trap the devil in the coin. So he carves across into the coin, and he keeps the devil trapped inside of the coin, and uses the devil's power.
That's an interesting story.
Thank you. It's a cool legend, right? You hear something like that, and I don't know, gets the creative juices flowing. Okay, so this one is from Jack's perspective, and he has just, not killed, but he's shown his coin to this stripper woman who the coin basically caused her to commit suicide. It made her go insane. She committed suicide, and that has fed the coin. And so this is how the coin is able to be maintained. The devil's able to maintain himself as he's trapped in this coin. Okay, so it's Jack. "I waited an extra moment after the girl had died before going to retrieve the coin from her outstretched hand. We were nothing without our manners, after all, and I wouldn't want to interrupt such an intimate moment. A look of horror was etched on the face of the dead girl. Her eyes stared unseeing at the ceiling, while her mouth hung open and saliva spilled from her slackened jaw. Now you see him, don't you? Was he everything you expected him to be? I grinned at the stripper's horror-stricken face. The coin was hot to the touch, and I passed it over my knuckles a few times to cool it before slipping it into my pocket and doing up the custom zipper. Warmth seeped through the thick wool of my jacket from the coin regardless, and I chuckled to myself at the heat of it. The meal must have been better than expected, the girl's soul more blackened than I had first supposed. Yes, her soul was rather dark, wasn't it? But not quite dark enough. No, not quite dark enough. I gave my pocket a fond pat, but yelped when the coin turned scorching hot and seared my hand. Don't be salty now. You've had your fill. It's your turn to give Jack what he needs, or you won't get another. The coin cooled beneath my touch, and I felt energy pour from it to infuse my limbs with life once more. He kept a steady stream of it pumping through my veins and keeping me alive, but I'd begun to need these jolts of energy as well. I guess that was what happened when you're 300-something years old. What the real number was, I didn't know or care. No need to keep track so long as I had my coin. There's a good boy. Now you have a little rest while Jack has his fun. I grinned to myself, knowing it was the stuff of nightmares.
Some good stuff there.
I really love my story. It's probably the longest in the anthology at 9,000 words. I think most of them are around 7, but yeah, it's a bit longer. I'd love to expand it a little bit more, make it more of a short book, because I just find Jack to be a very interesting character, and the way it concludes kind of gets my mind
rolling.
Yes.
Exactly. So Faye, what got you into doing horror writing?
Sorry?
What got you into horror writing?
Well, I've always loved horror movies, and I'm a scaredy cat myself, so I feel like I understand the fear response really well. Like, this character scares me. I'll rewrite something until I'm like, I am frightened by this, and then I know it's going to be impactful. So I don't know. I think horror is very thrilling. It's like an exciting thing to write about, and it's an exciting thing to watch too.
Now, when you write a story, do you try to put some of your own fears into your stories?
Just in terms of the characters, I suppose. Yeah, I guess so. Just sort of more like the physical response. Like I know what it is to be terrified of something, and I know like what people really, they're scared of the dark, and people with bad intentions towards them. I don't really know where these ideas kind of come from, but they just kind of develop, I guess.
I mean, do you have like so I spoke to many writers, and they say, they'll have a dream, or they were reading an article or something, and then boom, they have to immediately start writing it down and come up with the story. Is that your same method as well, or do you have a little different?
Well, I will say with Jack that I'd been looking to write a Halloween story. I actually started this a couple of years ago, Jack, and I came across that legend of Stingy Jack that I was describing to you, where the devil was trapped in the coin and he held the cross. And I just got this really strong feeling from Jack as a character. Like I could see what he would look like, what he would act like, what he'd be wearing. And the story just kind of revolved around him as a character. So I guess that story, the Stingy Jack tale, really inspired this story. Absolutely. And sometimes it will be something small, just sparks something, and the story just starts churning away.
Okay.
I don't think I really have dreams about it though. Okay. It's more like a mood or a feeling about a character or something will just kind of get a ball rolling in my head, and my brain will be like, let's make a story out of that. And there we are.
Because I actually had a interview with an author, and she was saying that she gets her stories from, because she has vivid dreams. And I was like, boy, I was like, boy, that must be maybe a nightmare and a good thing to have these vivid dreams, because I don't even remember half my dreams.
Yeah, sometimes I have very vivid dreams. And with those ones, it's a lot of emotion in dreams, which is sort of interesting from a writer perspective, like trying to write out some interesting story. If it's a very emotional dream, then that helps, right? But no, I've had some very vivid dreams. I can't say that I've tried to really write out a dream though. like I have written out like a summary of what a dream was a couple of times, but nothing nothing elaborate. Those more like play out like movies to me.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of developing story, more concrete than like a dream.
Yeah. And you did a great job in just a little bit of reading you just done about, because you're welcome, man. Because I'm assuming it has to be tough for a short story to pretty much tell the story as descriptive as possible. Like you were saying, give a description of what Jack looks like, what he's thinking, what he's feeling. So is it tougher to, when it comes to a short story, to put all those pieces together so that the audience can put themselves into that story, the smells, the feels, compared to a long form?
Well, something we did in our book that I really like, because I do want to just kind of jump into this story with Jack, is we did a little introduction for all of our stories. So everybody basically wrote a little paragraph to set the stage for their story. And that really helps if there's some critical information you want to get across, that you don't want to have to explain within the short story, because you don't have a lot of space and you want to focus on making those details really stand out in the senses, right? Like the smells, the filler, like you said. Yeah. You want to include that stuff to make it as immersive as possible. So we did these introductions for each story where you have this like little paragraph to explain something and kind of give a background to the reader going into the story, and get them into the mood for the story as well.
Okay. Now, I am jealous because I wish I could be a creative when it comes to like author or filmmaking. Now, being an author, is it tough to turn your brain off? Like, is your brain constantly thinking of ideas and different stories and, oh, let me go back and add this?
Yes. Sure.
So I'm not jealous of that part.
We just did this little, it's like an audience participation prompt thing on our Sisterhood of the Black Pen socials. And we asked everybody to name like non-scary animals, like whatever they could think of. And we picked one of them to write a story about. So I was writing this story and they picked one of the animals. And the one I chose to write about was an axolotl, if you know what that is.
No, what's that?
Oh, it's this weird little like salamander fish thing.
Okay.
It has got like a grill of ears, like multiple ears.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They're really popular right now. Anyways, no. I've heard of them more times in the past year than ever before. I didn't know they existed. But it is quite cute and not scary. But anyways, so I wrote part of that story, the first part of it, and I'm walking to pick up my kids from school, and my brain's like, oh, this is going to be the next scene, and this is how it's going to happen. And she's going to be eating her dinner, but she's not eating anymore because the creature is poisoning her. And it just, like, my brain kept going. And sometimes it happens when you put your work aside and then you go to do something simple like the dishes or whatever, and your brain has been quietly working away at the next part of it, because it's like, you know, your brain is set on a path trying to develop this story. It could be really hard to switch off too.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Now, so when you have the idea in your mind of a story, do you already have the ending in mind, or is that something you work from the beginning and work your way to the ending?
I usually have the ending in mind. Yeah. So I know where it's going. I know the important pieces, and I will hit those important pieces, but I don't necessarily know how we're going to get there, if that makes sense.
So it's everything that's in the middle. That's what you got to work your way up to.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's like you're driving a car to a destination, but Google's having a problem and it's not giving you the right directions. And so it's all these different route options. And so you couldn't tell somebody the route you're going to take ahead of time, but you know you're going to get there. Yes. It may take you 1 hour and 45, it may take you 3 hours, but you're going to get there. It just depends which path it is. So yeah, I don't know. It does develop as you're writing it. And even if I have a very clear idea of what something's going to be in my head, it doesn't always come out like that. And art is very much like that. You think it's going to be the one way, and then it changes into something new as you're writing it. And that new thing may not match exactly the vision in your head, but it's honestly usually more interesting and more beautiful, because your brain has made this thing. It's taken that vision and then developed it further.
Now, have you ever gotten towards the end of a book or a story and you're like, crap, I don't like that ending, or I don't like that beginning, or there's a big chunk in the middle that I want to switch around?
Well, right now, I write dark fantasy as well, and so my novel coming out next year is like sort of Lion King, Dune meets Game of Thrones, and
Nice.
yeah, thanks. I'm very excited about it. Anyways, Lion King inspired, so it's like lion shifters, big cat shifters. Love big cat shifters. Anyways, I've gone back and I've just added so much to the world. So more than events and stuff, I think that the world has just gotten a lot richer, and I feel like that's happened to me with a number of stories as well. So in that really massive editing process where you're going back, it's like, oh well, what if this is the way their social structure worked? What if this was their the ritual that they did, or this star that they worship, because they worship stars in my world, and it just gets more richer and more interesting, more than new events. Oh, actually, there was one new event I added in. It was very critical. And I say,
you forgot to add in, like, oh, I got to add this in because now it makes the rest of the story make sense.
No, it's just something I want to revisit in the second book. But yeah, it was actually an event. So I'm saying I've made the world a lot more rich, but there was this event, and I saw the whole scene perfectly, and it's going to add all this political intrigue, and that she gets kidnapped, and this person who is in power over them releases them, but makes the guy swear and make a bargain with them that once he's in power, he's going to help this person to remain where they are in their position. So it was like a really cool, like, extra political intrigue that I'm going to bring up again in book 2. And I still haven't really figured out a good spot to stick it in, because it's like my brain has already written the story. And so when I'm looking back at it, I'm like, okay, so here they're doing this, and then they do this. And like, it's all very flowing in the story, the way it goes. And I still have to figure out a right spot to put this guy. So
I can imagine it's tough. Now there's going to be a second book in the story.
Right.
Now, was that already, when you first started the first book, was that already in your mind that there's going to be a second book, or did you get like halfway through, like, oh, this is going to have to, some of this is too much, some of it's going to have to carry over into another book?
So my first book, like, it really wraps up well what's going on and the conflict that's going on. But then there's something at the very end that I knew was going to happen that sets it up for book 2, where you're like, whoa, that's crazy. And wow, what's going to happen now? That can't coexist. So yeah, I always knew that it was going to be continuing, because I knew I had that ending in mind. And the second book I have in my head, but I need to get like going through it, and then it will be more clear to me exactly where the characters are going to go, because there's a lot of Google routes available right now for them to travel. Google Maps is all over the page.
All of it.
Can I say Google on here? Is Google listening to me? Okay.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. It probably is. We're like riddled with them in our house.
Now, if you say Amazon, I'm pretty sure my Alexas are listening.
And something's listening. Yeah.
So what got you into writing in the first place? Like, I understand horror writing. You've been doing this for a while. When did you decide, you know what, I want to be a writer?
Oh, so I have had a whole bunch of stories in my head for many, many years. And I think the main thing missing for me, and why I didn't start earlier, was just confidence. And that's the case for a lot of indie authors, where it's like, oh, I can't be a writer, and like there's these beings up on their pedestals, and how can I do this thing? And even if you have a story, it's hard to find that confidence in yourself to be like, no, I'm gonna commit to the craft. I'm going to learn how to do this really well, and I'm going to put that story onto a page. I just hit a point in my life where I was like, I don't care.
Just like, do it.
Yeah, exactly. And writers are not beings up on a pedestal. They're just people who have stories and are passionate about those passionate enough about those stories to learn how to tell them well. So you're honing your skills to get to the point where you can write out the story correctly, the way that you see it being told and the impact you hope it has on people.
Now, do you think it's easier in year 2023 to get your work out there? I mean, with Amazon, they would do self-publishing. Do you think it's easier, or do you think it's with the self-publishing, which a lot of people are doing now, it makes it a little tougher because you don't have that marketing push?
Oh my goodness. Marketing is a whole other thing for creatives. And I know so many indie authors who just haven't really gotten out there. They haven't really either, they've not published or they have something out there and they don't know how to market it. And so they just don't get seen. You know, they're not able to get any eyes on their work. And for a creative person, that's really a difficult thing, to not have eyes on your work, to not be able to share it with people. So indie publishing, I mean, it has saturated the market because anyone can publish a book. And in some ways it gets a bad name because anyone can publish a book. There are people who publish with spelling errors and grammatical errors.
In a couple. Yeah.
Yes, there are. But I think it's a wonderful thing for people to be able to do that for themselves and to invest in themselves and their own books and their own stories and be like, no, I'm not going to wait 3 years to be querying and requesting agents and trying to get an agent and then wait 4 more years and the agent has all this control over my vision and my story and they're going to change it so it's more marketable. This allows people to have that power to do it for themselves and be like, nope, this is what the story is. Not changing anything. I'm just going to work to make it as best as it can be because I think it's cool and so should you.
Yes. And yeah, because I go to a lot of horror conventions and there's a lot of indie horror artists at horror conventions. I always videotape the conventions. I try to stop at pretty much every indie horror author and just give them a quick plug on my video. And I try to at least purchase each and every one of their books. I got a whole stack of books here. And majority of my reading are from indie authors that I would have never even known who they were if they weren't at horror conventions. And they say, come on over and let me tell you about my book. So I think when it comes to self-publishing, you kind of have to get out there and you have to meet your audience.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, the internet is a wonderful place for that kind of exposure. Like we are all over socials and we give away free early reader copies of our books, which helps a lot because it just gets people to try it out. But it's tough. It's tough to get in front of the reader, especially with so much competition, right? That's still something we're trying to figure out as an organization, Sisterhood of the Black Pen, is how to reach people and be like, you want to try out this anthology. It's got cool stuff. Side note, again, reminder, it's free today. to everyone, happy Halloween. It's Verify Your Tablet Day. But yeah, it is really hard to get in front of readers. I did a live event recently, and it was so exciting to talk to people in person about the books. Yeah, I had the Twisted Tales of Halloween Horror there, and I had my own books there, and I was just like, get to see them react when you tell them what your book is about. It's a very different experience from posting it online and then seeing somebody comment and be like, that sounds cool.
Yeah,
versus,
look at that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, thanks. But then you see somebody and you're like, oh, wow, they're really interested. And that's a wonderful experience for an author. For any creator.
And I always like them to get them to autograph my book to them. Like, do you mind autographing? And they don't mind, It's just amazing. I like to, majority of my reading I do are indie authors that I would have never known unless, I either interviewed them or I was at a convention and they were there and I had a conversation with them.
Yeah. And, it takes a lot of courage to publish your own book, get through this editing process, you're funding everything yourself, and then you're going out there to those conventions and things and promoting yourself and your story. So I feel like there are a lot of authors who don't do that because it's just not so much in their personality, and they might be one of the best writers in the world, they're not necessarily going to get an agent. Doesn't mean they're going to get an agent, because those are just very difficult to get. And they don't have that confidence and understanding of the publishing world to kind of go ahead and get themselves out there. So it's a bit of a problem. Like our authors, most of them hadn't published before. And so this was like their first experience. And it's kind of nice for them to be starting with a short story in this supportive environment, being part of an anthology. So it's something we talk about a lot because we produce anthologies, is this goal we have to support new indie horror authors through the publication process, dip their toes in the water. You're putting it out as a team effort. You're not standing solo on your novel that you wrote. You're working in an environment that's collaborative and supportive.
And everybody's promoting together.
Everybody's promoting together. You learn kind of what the process is like. First, we do developmental editing, then we do copy line editing. Everybody needs to have an author bio. Like, these are hopefully skills that they'll be able to take with them into their next publication. And confidence as well, because the stories have been fantastic. The book has gotten just phenomenal reviews. I think we're at like 4.5 or 4.6 on Goodreads.
Like 4.5, yeah.
On Goodreads, which is usually like people are more strict on that, but our early readers just like devoured it and loved it. And it's been a really exciting project that way. And also for our authors who are newer to the biz to kind of see like, wow, people liked my story. And like, this person mentioned my story by name and they said they loved it. And so, yeah, it's been cool.
Yep. I actually purchased a copy on my Kindle. I'm definitely going to be sitting and read it soon.
Cool.
Yeah. So
start with Jack.
Start with Jack. Okay.
I
wish I would know. I wish I would know about the free. No, I'm joking.
It's $3.99.
No, I don't mind. Listen.
Not an expensive ebook.
I'm joking. I love supporting indie artists, as you know, from my channel and so forth. So like, I don't mind paying the money. Yeah. All right. So, is it hard as a woman horror artist in the year 2023? Because the arena, the environment is saturated with male. The horror industry in general is saturated with men. Is it a little harder to stand out as a woman indie artist?
I don't think so, but we're also publishing within a group of all women authors, so we kind of have that. We're the sisterhood of
that one up. Yeah.
So we're kind of like almost capitalizing on the fact that we're all women authors. And that kind of just developed because we were originally a writing group, a women's writing group. And so we realized, we have a lot of talented writers here. Let's do an anthology together. So we're working in this team environment. So I don't know if it's really, there are a lot of male horror authors, I'll say that for sure. But I haven't really experienced too much intimidation by that personally. Maybe it's because we're publishing, like I said, as a group, as an organization. There's a great community there for that. Sorry.
There is. I have a question. Now, if there was a woman artist out there and she, is new into the game and she wanted to, she had a short story, could she reach out to you and your team?
Oh yeah, we're going to be doing open submissions for our volume 2 of Holiday Horrors. So that'll be coming out next Christmas. We're going to be posting that in November. So starting tomorrow, I guess. Yes. Halloween, because it's Halloween now. So we're going to be doing open submissions. Anyone can apply. And we really encourage people to apply. My partner and I, who produce these anthologies, we go through carefully each submission and we give developmental feedback on all of the pieces of work. So even if your story isn't accepted, if you submit it to us, you're still going to get some hopefully valuable feedback on the writing and the story, and you can take that with you and apply it elsewhere or develop the story further and do it as like a standalone piece. So yes. In short.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. All right, Faye. So, as you know, this is our horror channel. So I'm gonna ask you two horror questions since you're a horror fan.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
What is your all-time favorite horror movie?
Horror movie?
Mm-hmm.
Blair Witch 2.
Part 2, really?
I love 2. It's
And
so
season
cool.
what is it called? Is it called
Something Shadows. It's the witchy one.
Shadows of the Witch or something like that?
Something Shadows. I haven't watched it for a while now. I should
Book of
rewatch
Shadows.
it.
Book
Book of Shadows. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Yeah. It's just really cool. Like there's a lot of like mental stuff where that you don't know what's going on, and the people are like possessed, and then you find their footage and it tells a different story. I don't know. I just always loved it. Plus, it has Marilyn Manson in the intro, so I can't.
You're the first person to ever say that. Like,
oh, really? It just came to mind. Like I was a little put on the spot here, but I'm like, I still love that movie.
I've heard people say the original Blair Witch, or even like the remake, which I love the original Blair Witch. I remember like buying that on VHS when I was in high school, and like it scared the crap out of me. But this part 2 was okay. You're the first person to say.
Have you seen part 2? Have you seen number 2?
Yes, I have. Wasn't a fan at all. I can see it in the theaters.
It is very different. It's very different.
It is.
One, but I don't know. I just loved it.
Sorry.
Sorry to break the mold a little bit there. But that's honestly, when you're put on the spot, I'm like, okay, what's my favorite? And I don't usually pick favorites, but that one's a real standout for me. So that's the one.
And the second question, who is your favorite woman horror villain?
Woman horror villain. Well, I just read Slewfoot by Brom, and the female character in that is sort of a villain. So I'm going to say her right now, but she really has like a revenge arc in the book that is super cool.
Okay.
She's very mistreated, and she's accused of being a witch, and then she becomes a witch. And she uses her talents on the people who were.
And what's that called? I'm gonna write that down.
Slewfoot, and it's got beautiful artwork inside of it. The author is an oil paint artist as well as an author, and he includes like pictures of his paintings in the book, which like represent the characters and stuff. It's really pretty.
I'm gonna check that out.
It's good. It's a great Halloween read, although we're on Halloween now, so that doesn't really help you out for the next week or so.
It's Halloween for me. 360.
Okay, great. Yeah, check out Slewfoot by Brom. That's probably other than my book, spooky season pick. It's very witchy and cool. There's witch trials and some Puritan society, and it's a neat book. It's really well done.
Final question. You ready?
Okay.
What woman author would you love to write a short story in your next book? Is it famous? It could be famous. It could be local.
Okay. Amelia Cognette.
Okay.
She has a book, Perception, that I just love, and I think I would love to see her write a story in our anthology, our next one. She's a horror author who has been in our writing group, who I've read for, and she has so far not contributed to our anthologies, but that's like right in her wheelhouse. I think she would do a fantastic job. So,
have you asked her, or?
Yeah, kind of. She's always kind of buried in different projects. She's a very prolific writer, so she puts out a lot of work. And she has not done much in the short form, which is something that a lot of writers do struggle with, is switching from doing longer pieces to shorter pieces. So if they're writing novels a lot of the time and then they switch to doing something shorter, it's kind of harder to do that. But
because you put in a lot in in a smaller piece, so you got to add those. You got to leave something. You got to pick and choose what you leave out and what you keep in, and I can imagine it's a little harder if you're used to doing long form.
Yeah, well, but I find that it's easier for people starting out to start in a shorter form, because for the editing process, which is honestly like a bulk of the work for me anyways, and for a lot of people, when you have a short story and it's 5,000 words, you can look over that 50 times and make it perfect. But if you have a book and the book is like 100,000 words,
Yeah.
it's a much larger undertaking to be like, okay, let me understand how my editing process is going to work. It's going to
You're
take
gonna
you
need help with
years.
that one, right?
Yeah, and also like getting people to read it for you to like be readers so that you know that your points are coming across. A lot easier if you have a 5,000 word piece than if you have like 100,000 words and you're like, hey, buddy, can you help me out? Read
Here
this
you
book.
go. Yeah.
I need help with it, and the person's like, whoa, that's 100,000 words too long for me. So
And I need this done as soon as possible. Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's a big job to be beta reading for people. It's like, I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but it's like being an early reader
Yes.
before it's gone to the editor is beta reading. That can be a huge job.
I can imagine.
Especially for a beginner author, there's usually a lot of kinks to work out. So if you have a short story and you're a beginner author, you can kind of figure out how to work out those kinks in the shorter form and then graduate yourself up to doing longer pieces of work.
Amazing. Now, Faye, where can everyone find you?
Oh, the Sisterhood of the Black Pen is all over the internet. Well, we're on TikTok and Instagram. That's all over the internet for us.
Okay. Not X and Facebook.
We're on Facebook. We're on Facebook as well, but we're mostly active on TikTok. I don't know. It's the most interesting medium for me.
Okay. And so if there's someone out there who wants for you to take a look at their short for your next book, that's where they contact you on Instagram?
I think TikTok is better. Sisterhood
TikTok?
of the Black Pen, and I'll send you the links as well. Maybe
Perfect.
stick them in the show notes or something. We're more active on TikTok, like we're posting those audience participation things. So there's lots of ways to kind of get involved with our group ahead of the submissions, and then watch out for the open submission because we're going to be doing one for Christmas horror next.
Nice.
A volume 2 for our Christmas horror.
Nice.
Very exciting. Next year.
Well, I'm looking forward to have you back on to promote that as well, Faye.
Absolutely, and I will read something scary to you again.
Yes, please, please. You know I like scary. Faye, it's been an absolute pleasure. Everyone, today, go into your Kindle. You can get a digital copy free of Twisted Tales of Halloween Horror. Please, and it's also for sale if you wanted the soft copy or the hard copy on Amazon as well. Mm-hmm. Faye, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on to the Horror Room today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been really fun to get on here and hang out.
Yes. And I would love to have you on in the future. You can promote anything, just hit me up.
Awesome. Will do.
Well, everyone, happy Halloween, and thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.